The pursuit of knowledge knows no best practices and chart a collective pathway, unity to learn from one another, forge new partnerships, and inspire. On behalf of the University of Ghana National Programs Office, I would like to express my thanks in this and like my gratitude, lecturers, sponsors, volunteers, staff of the international programs are in a reality. Your hard work, dedication, and tireless effort. Conclusion, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us all assure ourselves together for prosperity. Once again, welcome to the 2024 iWeek celebration. Thank you very much.
Professor Eric Osei Esibe. I was told that I mentioned your name wrongly. I said Asibe. So I've corrected my chairman for, or our chairperson for this morning's symposium. And ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Pascaline, Sir for Foreign Affairs. Distinguished participants, opportunity to welcome you all to the University of Ghana and to the Professor Gordon Awandari and researcher. Awandari's research focuses on the molecular founding director of a professor in the Department of Biochemistry.
To implement the MOU that we signed a few days ago and making it count and leading to deepened collaboration between our students and faculty and the staff and students here, both our local and international students and faculty. The diversity of our community is the richness of the University of Ghana, and it demonstrates the strength of having equitable partnerships globally. Planning committee led by Professor Eric Osei for putting together this innovative and exciting program. We commend them for working so tirelessly to ensure a successful implementation of the program. And we are proud that their work embodies the excellence of the UG brand and demonstrates the values of UG of commitment, loyalty, and respect. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have two outstanding keynote speakers who are going to do justice to the topic. And following that, we have an exceptional group of individuals who would be undertaking a panel discussion, which I would be very honored to moderate. And we are assured of a very stimulating discussion this morning. I invite all to build new partnerships. And on that note, I welcome you to
Vice Chancellor with responsibility for academic and student affairs for chairing this morning's session on behalf of our vice. I'd really like to ask to your bags and your, in case you have lost your, if you are missing your phone, as we say in Ghana, see them for identification. This event is live on the University of Ghana's social media pages. Here, please tell them to log on to the YouTube and also join us live for this morning. A chief Miss Propon. Hello. It's Miss. already. Please let's just give him a round of applause.
The way we want it to be. So thank you, Madam. Acting Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Dean, Heads of Department, distinguished keynote speakers, gentlemen, friends from the media. Of the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Honorable is unable to join us for this maiden event, specifically the International Programs Office for the invitation. And I'm here also to make a few remarks on behalf of the Honorable Minister. With our policy of public diplomacy, which is aimed at civil society organizations, private sector operators, I'd like to support the call by the Danes to adverse conditions faced by our countries in order to address global challenges of international peace and security, human insecurity, violent extremism, maritime piracy, climate change we are pursuing today will go a long way to help in our national development process, and is committed to the principles of multilateralism, interconnected. No country is an island. They enhance economic hope, relating to educational, technological, and cultural, as well as the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. To this great campus after 30 years that I completed. On behalf of our Honorable Minister, the International Week, iWeek, duly launched. I thank you for your cooperation.
Of the global north. And we as to Ghana, rethinking internationalization in Africa. I think this is a very important question to address for two reasons. On the one hand, international knowledge dominance of the global north. And we know that internationalization is a very elitist dimension, although it's changing from the global south, including Africa. Worldwide, only 1% of the student population is elitist. It's also elitist that only a very few number of institutions in the global north, primarily, are having the possibility and even at capacity building to send them home, but for revenue generation, creating an international class environment for their own students, their access to the top rankings, their access to the top key publications in Africa. The big question, of course, is how can that be changed? And of course, as a white male from the global north, it's a difficult position for me to take the position here to tell you how you should have to do that. I can tell you some of the points that are important to take in mind. We're focusing on the mobility side. Make use of the new opportunities of technology that we didn't even have 20 years ago, but you now have with challenges for sure, for all kind of reasons of finance and access, etc., for all of your students, for all of your staff, than we had in the past. But the curriculum at home for all your students by creating a kind of internationalization that is exclusively of knowledge about this mix of experiences and learning from this experience students. So internationalization is not a model that fits all. It is defined by the context, the local context of your institution, the local context of your country, the context of your relevant for Africa. what will be the impact of what you're going to do to help African society, African economy to improve instead of staying dependent on the global north. That should be driving the internationalization of higher education. And internationalization for society means in the African context that you have to look into how can we use our partnership with whom we collaborate, our mobility possibilities, our curriculum, our teaching and learning, our research and innovation for your interests. So be clear in your answers why you have to internationalize. It is because it should be for your benefits. And in that sense, you make it more equitable because you're not depending on the funding that comes from the global north, the possibilities that your students have to go to the global north, the possibilities that you have to get access to rankings and publications through your partnership with the global north, but based on your own needs, your own opportunities, your own challenges, together to have a much more inclusive and equitable internationalization. I will not say that it's easy to do because there will be all kinds of challenges that you will face. So I will almost also not say that you don't have to partnership with institutions in the global north, only exclusively look into your region or partnership with Asia, the Middle East, and Africa, etc. You can partner, but the partnership has complementarity of interests, not only the interests of the institution in the global north, but primarily in the interest of why it is important for your institution to internationalize higher education in the African context. Base it on your own questions why you have to do it. Look at how the impact can improve what you do. What kind of activities are you going to do in internationalization? How you are going to operate your internationalization, and what kind of operational, organizational environment in what you're all going to do that. That is essential for an equity internationalization approach. And if you do that, then you will have a much more effective way of internationalizing than what we. How can we get funding? How can we get partnerships? Faculty to go to conferences and research symposiums in the global north. But if that's the only exclusive way wherein a percentage of your students and your staff, you have not an equity international by starting point of yourselves. By starting why we're doing it, it is because of us and not because of the others. It is because we want the big problems that we have with climate change, with sustainability in our context, not in the context and interest of the global north, to make it effective for yourselves. We have fellow and professor emeritus that many governments they still think about mobility. Mobility of students, mobility of staff, the strategies that we are having in the global focused on mobility staff. And you will stay dependent also on you have to change. We also have to change in the global north that your internationalization strategy should be. That is your call. Accepting that we should not be trying to instant before technology, you can do it by creating a much more based on your own context and in comparative perspective, autonomy and responsibility of the public sector for your high value system of higher education is the driving force that needs to then in the current situation where you're still too much dominated by our development with your symposium and with the common how you can to internationalize. And I hope my advice global north context, but knowing from many years of experience will for you to create your own strategies for internationalization based on with your future. Thank you very much.
who was not able to join us here physically, but found it very important to thank him very much for joining us this morning. Would like to invite you to relax. Here at the University of Ghana, we have many. This morning, they are going to be performing for us Jambulani. The choreography titled Nightmare, which is making sure they are safe on campus is a daunting task. Therefore, the dawn and gentlemen, relax and enjoy Jambulani by the Ghana Dance. Thank you very much. That was the Ghana Dance Ensemble. The Ghana Dance Ensemble. Today they've done something very different for us. Thank you very much, Ghana Dance Ensemble. I was looking to see whether any of us was brave enough to get up and do some of the moves, but I see that we preferred to just observe on the screen. And this would be by Professor Dr. Birgit Ulrike Munch. She's a Vice Rector for Infrastructure.
Excellency, Honorable Minister Shirley Ayokor Butchway, dear National Programs Professor Eric Osai Asebe, dearest colleagues from our partner institution, the University of Ghana, esteemed invitation to deliver a keynote for today's International League Symposium, I was very much looking forward to being with all of you today to exchange ideas and experiences on the topic of rethinking internationally. Led me to travel to Ghana this week, which I very much regret. I hope that by delivering my speech digitally, I will still be able to play a small, esteemed group of international experts. Your visits at the university, we thank you so much for taking the time to come to Bonn and to see what developments may still lie ahead of us. The question of how we can ensure equitable international partnerships is as relevant for us as it is a main point. We are very fortunate to have trusted partners such as the University. The University of Bonn Center for Felix Osanti was part himself for many years, and I can say he is still today, among others. While we are continuously looking for solutions and keeping up the conversation to improve on national laws and regulations implemented by funding organizations. Researchers from across Germany have repeatedly addressed these and other issues, calling on the federalisms. We regularly ask ourselves what we as universities can do to help solve these issues. As universities, we can neither change national law nor can we change regulations issued by third-party funding providers. A reality that as universities in all this. Where do we get to impact equitable partners? It means value and worth. It means capital equity, technological equity, but also, as the African experience, best practices and networks. Without globally networked universities, no university will be able to be successful worldwide. And bringing together top researchers can only make human talent equity possible. One important thing for us to do, of course, is voicing the problems and concerns at hand, as you are doing today and we are doing today, to come up with ways of improving the circumstances. Another thing we can do when someone else's way of funds provided by the federal and state governments through the that want to come to Bonn to work on their dissertations or research projects through scholarships at their home institution, and this is important, to avoid brain drain, while our Bonn SDG fellowships support researchers working on topics related to the United Nations by creating a support role in our international office operation, international campus forms and documents, which we include of external services where necessary. Other elements are improving our communication with dedicated channels for offering individual German language coaching as part of our onboarding program for international professors. And our university is the only one in Germany that live up to an increasingly demanding range of tasks. We increased our offers of intercultural trainings, specific demands. They also foster a general culture of open-mindedness, diversity, and curiosity towards other cultures, which is something that we strive for not only in the administration, is another area that stands for equity and which has been neglected for success can only be achieved if all three pillars, academics, student is access to university, and the associated financial aspects. For study in Europe, which is that university education in Germany is mostly free of charge, met with skepticism among the international community. After all, how can quality education game changer in an individual's life? Graduates from German universities often start their inclinations instead of hard economic facts and promoting equal opportunities. And we have efforts to promote equal opportunities for and tackle discrimination against women in diversity. And of course, from all of us. Of course, internationalization developments, which in the past years have shaken the very concept of 22, the question of how we could had to flee Ukraine due to the war, the University of Bonn, together with the University Space, administrative support, as well as support in securing funding for the researchers from Russia and Belarus who are being persecuted for their opposition to the war. Questions of identity, migration, conflict, and heritage from a important fields of research at your university. At the same time, to the scientific community in exile is different and sometimes more difficult. I like to further develop the concept of an academy in exile, the aim that they can continue their research with us, and this is individual using, for example. Sadly, the Russian invasion is even more, as you know. In Germany, the situation in Israel and Gaza, highly discussed, also in academics. These are only some examples of our partnerships. Is it always a very difficult question whether global, in other words, what can we as universities contribute to understanding through dialogue and exchange? I'm firmly convinced that the market for us universities know and connect with each other, that we can facilitate successful international future of internationalization. What could be a next step? So much stronger together, and also our students, PhDs and postdocs. One idea, the Nations University, our partner here in Bonn, as Bonn and with African partner universities, which could develop new innovative, but also in terms of joint cooperation between the institutions. Upcoming days, we wish you all the very best and fruitful exchanges.
Thank you very much. That was Professor Dr. And gentlemen, our two keynote speakers have shared insights and experiences from their variation for our panel discussion this morning. I would like to invite back here the Rethinking Internationalization in Africa, the equity question. I would like to invite Professor Gordon. Coming up, we just want you to know that in case you need to use the washroom, the washrooms are, so the ushers are available. They are in white t-shirts and they are seating people. Just tell the special invited guests, just in case you need a cup of coffee. In seminar room 1, there's a coffee machine there, sponsored by Nespresso. Please, thank you very much.
Thank you. Part of the program. What are the motives of internationalization? Is it for mutual benefit or is it for selfish interest? He has implored us not to copy blindly. We those in Africa, we should not take models that have succeeded somewhere and assume that same would work in our context. So our local context is very relevant. Critically, he makes an important point that internationalization should not be an end by itself, but it should be a means to sustainable systems for ourselves, and then also our independence to be able to be self-sufficient beyond the partnerships. He implores us to always ensure that partnerships are based on complementary interests and that we are all equal partners. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that these are some of the critical issues that we would like to explore with the panel. And we are very fortunate to have a very distinguished group of people who would help us discuss these issues and provide the necessary insight. We would like to invite Professor Hilary Khan, who is the interim Vice President of International Affairs and Associate Vice Chancellor for International Affairs at Indiana University. She is also an Associate Professor of Anthropology with expertise in global teaching and learning. Please join us. We are also happy to welcome Dr. Zenebe Uraguchi, who is an economist with multi-country experience. He's a professor of development economics at the Bern University of Applied Sciences, where he teaches, manages, conducts research, and gives advice on how to make development projects inclusive, sustainable, and effective. See here? Okay. Is he joining us virtually? Okay. Thank you. And then coming back home to Africa, we have our friend, Professor Werner de Wit, who is a senior program manager of the Unit for Student Mobility at Stellenbosch University. He is also the principal coordinator for the UNESCO Chair on Intercultural Competencies. Please. And finally, back home to our own Dr. Patrick Ewia, who is the founder and president of Aseshi University in Ghana, which is a private, non-profit institution. He is well known for bringing innovation and leadership to tertiary education in Africa. So thank you very much to all of you. Oh, I forgot my friend. Okay. So our final participant is Dr. Seth Amanfo, who has worked with the University of Ghana for many years. He now has a new role as Regional Director, Africa and the Middle East at the University of Edinburgh. He oversees and drives the university's research and higher education partnerships and engagements with strategic institutions in the two regions. He is also a Ghanaian. All right, thank you. All right, so we'll start with Hillary. So the first question really is on how we approach the equity question in developing international partnerships. In your role, you have overseen probably hundreds of partnerships from inception to implementation, and you must be mindful of the issue of equity in all these partnerships. Can you share with us your approach with that the issue of equity is properly catered for from inception of partnerships all the way through the implementation?
Hello. Hello. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Pro Vice Chancellor, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. It's wonderful to be here. You know, equity is something that every internationalized institution is thinking about, and we certainly, within the context of our own university, are thinking quite a bit about it. The elitist version, as Hans DeWitt spoke about, the lack of access to international education, the difficulties in building that those avenues, you know, at our institution. And so that it just becomes such an important piece of when we're thinking about collaborating with partners around the world. And I would say, again, this Professor DeWitt mentioned this quite a bit. When we're having partnerships between the global north and the global south, it has to be front and center. It can't be put in a closet. It can't be avoided, you know, a few at the initial point of conversation. I think so much of what we do is too transactional when transforming our institutions collectively together. And that's the approach that was of intersection, which was fantastic. But I made it get dusty. And so for the past 2 days, we've been meeting at the University of Ghana with a number of units and faculty and staff, listening, learning. And we did the same thing last year. I just want to say one thing and then I'll pass it on because I'm assuming everybody needs to answer this question. So I don't want to talk too much about this. But we have a very strong relationship with a university in Kenya. Appreciated the last keynote with the focus on not just faculty, not just students, but also administrative professional staff. Those are often the ones that are often eclipsed in this work, and I couldn't agree more that it's really, really important. But research is so much of what we do, and internationalization is just underneath all our institutions trying to advance not internationalization, but advancing, having internationalization advance the priorities of our institutions. And that's really, really critical. The AMPATH project, I just want to mention a few things that it said. One is a philosophy of research ethics that emerged was conducting research with or in another country is justified only if it is responsive to the needs of the host community. And it has to be that shared collective agreement that this is serving, that there is a benefit. And that successful partnerships always involve mutual aims and commitments. And so that's how we start to think about equity, and always contextualizing it within the cultural context, the political, historical, institutional context. And so there's not a one model. Again, this came up earlier with Professor DeWitt. It has to be developed. In some ways, we're not just adding new voices to the table, but we need to create a new table.
All right. Thank you very much. Zanebe, I hope your microphone works. Good.
I
So,
think so.
yeah, so I would want you to comment on the same subject, but more especially from the African side. What do you think we need to do from the African side to ensure that when we enter into these partnerships, there's equity and equal or mutual benefits?
Thanks very much. I look at it from three angles. The why question, the what question, and then the how question. So the why question, I don't have any problems. It is needed. Global problems, complex problems need global key types of partnerships. I think you mentioned one, which is in the middle, transactional. It's in the middle, transactional in the sense that you get something out of that. So it's geopolitical interest, extractive resources, and so on. The first one is strategic partnership, which is based on
get paid some fees. And we thought that ultimately that wasn't really serving us. We're very student-centered. And so we shifted to a model where we're looking for exchanges, right? So our students pay their fees to us, students abroad pay their fees to their home institutions, and then they swap. This way, if a student at a Cedi is getting financial assistance from the university, they get that financial assistance, they still get to travel. So our students who are coming from the bottom quintiles economically have the same access. The only difference would be the travel cost, and we would fund that by raising philanthropic money to support those who need it. And then in terms of institutional arrangements, we look for mutual fit, we look for mutual benefit, and there's different things that we gain. So for student exchanges, there are institutions like Swarthmore, Dartmouth College, Sciences Po in France, and many others where we have this student exchange arrangement. And we just signed our first one actually with an African university, Strathmore University in Kenya. Then we have arrangements where students can do joint programs between us and an international institution and get a master's and a bachelor's. So we're doing that with ASU. We have an arrangement with UC Berkeley where our students who are doing entrepreneurship can go for a semester and they get close access to Silicon Valley, which is the benefit for us. We have an arrangement with the College of Worcester where our students go and do applied research with Worcester students for American companies. And we have a partnership with ETH Zurich in Switzerland where they've worked with us to set up a master's program that we offer joint master's degrees. So we really look at what is it that we're trying to get out of this relationship that benefits us, what is it that benefits the other side, and those are the best arrangements to have. Then to your second question, I would say that there's a project that we started 7 years ago where with the exception of Strathmore, you notice all the arrangements I was talking about was with global North universities in Europe, in North America, US, Canada, and so on. We set up a collaboration on the African continent, and the goal was to build a community of practice that would have 140 member institutions on the African continent, affecting 1 million students. So we've sort of set goals of what we're trying to accomplish around pedagogy, around incorporating ethics into curriculum, around career placement for students, and also around effective and strong entrepreneurship ecosystems on these university campuses. And over the last 7 years, there have been faculty and administrators from over 400 universities on the continent, actually, that have participated in the convenings of this collaborative. And we convene every year, and also have an online presence so that between the annual convenings, there's ongoing sharing that occurs. And I think that connectivity with African universities is very important because we have similar concerns, similar constraints, similar aspirations. We have different strengths, and each institution bringing their different strengths to the table helps all of us to get stronger. And I think that's, it's one of the things that we are very keen about. We think that collaborative is going to be probably the most important international arrangement that we have.
So, yeah, so University of Ghana, we have participated in some of those programs, and they're very, very, very useful. Seth, so I think I want you to I want you to answer the question and take it a little bit further in terms of how we can target impact to underrepresented groups and marginalized communities, in terms of ensuring that there's equity on both sides. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the University of Edinburgh has collaborated with Africa for many years. We often take pride in our first graduate from Sierra Leone sometime in 1859. And also we are proud to be associated with Tanzania, as their first president was an alumnus of the University of Edinburgh. Whenever you've been in a relationship for a long time, a collaboration with for a long time, you might be tempted to be doing things the same way as you've been doing them. And so in 2023, last year, we took a pause and reset our relationship with Africa through the visit of our principal, Professor Sir Peter Mattison, and a delegation to Ghana. To understand, it was based on the principle of listening, learning, and commitment. So I was happy to hear Hilary also using the same term. So we wanted to listen. What we've done in the past, has it always been good? Has it always been profitable and equitable to both parties? If not, in what ways can we reshape and redirect our focus? And that discussion led to our renewed focus on responsive engagement and academic leadership. And I'll give an example of the MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program in answering your question. We were fortunate in 2016 to have some funding from the MasterCard Foundation. Through that, we were able to support the higher education of 266 African scholars, mostly at the undergraduate level, and almost all of them came to Edinburgh to study. By virtue of the impact and the stories from these students, the MasterCard was happy to give us a phase 2 funding, which just started last year. We've changed the model a bit for this second phase. It's all postgraduate because we know that's what the continent needs the most. And I was happy in yesterday at a workshop to hear that that's the direction of the University of Ghana also, to go more postgraduate and leave the undergraduate to some of our sister universities across the country. It's the same model that Ibadan University is also using, 60 to 40 postgrad versus undergraduate. So for this second phase of the MasterCard, there's a deliberate action because you cannot wish for equity. You have to be deliberate in the way you approach it. So we are very deliberate to ensure that there will be more female students, more disabled students, but also more people from displaced settings and also from refugee background. And that's been very incredible in recruiting the first cohorts to represent these three categories. I'm not saying that males are not involved. We have a good number of our male colleagues also within the program. So that's one way we are trying to address the issue of the marginalized and people who hitherto might not have access to higher education. I will also just make a small point on the question of who sets the agenda, as came through some of the discussion. We've had a partnership called Tackling Infections to Benefit Africa, TIBA, which in Swahili translates to cure an infection. And the University of Ghana is our proud partner on that. The ethos of TIBA was that the research will be Africa-led. So this was not in the middle of the program, but at the onset, there was a deliberate action that the program will be Africa-led. There was also a deliberate action that of the £7 million funding, over 80% of that funding will go to Africa. And the third strand of that program is that after the end of the 4.5 years, when we review the 13 units across the UK who were funded, we saw that for the TIBA program, over 75% of our publications, which was over 100, had a first author or the senior author being an African researcher. So these are very deliberate actions that we took because we don't want, although the funding came from the UK government, we don't want research with African partners to benefit the academic trajectory of our northern partners. It has to also benefit our colleagues in Africa. So for us, as a University of Edinburgh, we are not just wishing for equity, but we are making a deliberate attempt and taking the necessary steps to ensure that we see it in the partnership that we form with colleagues in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we want to engage the audience as well. So we would like to open up for a few questions and comments from all of you sitting on the other side who have lots of experience in building and engaging in global partnerships. So if we have a microphone, we can take a few comments and then we come back to the panel to wrap up. When we come back, we'll address one issue, which is how do we monitor the partnership to ensure that good intentions are, borne out. Sometimes you start a partnership and there is the semblance of equity, but as you implement the partnership, then you realize that the intentions were not actually as pure as they began. How do you address such a situation? I will ask all the panelists to share their experiences and then we'll wrap up. But if there are any comments, questions from all the distinguished guests on this side. Yes, there's one hand up here. Microphone.
All right. Thank you very much, the Excellencies. I think it's an interesting.
Please introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Amos Kaboba, Dean for International Relations, University of Energy and Natural Resources. I'm very pleased to listen to all of you. My challenge is, how are we leveraging the diaspora in this internalization process, especially from the African continent? I think this is an important question because usually when they try to come in, there are always some internal bottlenecks. And I think I would like to hear from you how that has been done. Thank you.
All right, that's a great question. Can we take a few more and then we order? Yes, Professor Gordon.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Chris Gordon. 20 years ago, I was Dean of International Programs for this university, and I'm listening to the panelists and I'm wondering what has changed since then. Issues of travel visas, issues of equitable exchange when you have student mobility. What hasn't been spoken about so far, though you have just related to it, is that we stopped sending undergraduates out in my time because there was a very unhealthy issue of poaching of students. Because we would send our very best students, students with a GPA of 4.99 or, sorry, 3.99, excellent students. And usually US, I'm sorry, the professor will see this outstanding young person and say, there's no need to go back. I can help you get money so you can do a straight PhD and work them like crazy. And how, in the spirit of equity, how do we get rid of such toxic people in the environment? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes. There's a hand in front.
And there's one up here as well.
Okay, somebody has the microphone ready.
Yes, please.
Please go ahead, Dean.
Yes, please. Thank you very much. My name is Justice, Dean of the University of Ghana Business School, and I'm really excited about the conversations about equity and especially making use of partnerships to ensure that we can ensure equity. And thank you, Professor Chris Gordon, for mentioning briefly on the issue of visas. Unfortunately, the US is extremely notorious. And of course, these are international, these are national issues, and we don't have control over them. But it's very painful. 2 years ago, we had to send 80 students to the US, and we did everything, including going to the presidency and asking for visa intake, and it wasn't possible. Now, unfortunately, every month I received a minimum of 10 students from the US, from across universities from the US. And so the issue of equity cannot remain within the walls of universities. I think that universities and university principals are actually active voices within the space of policy and in international relations. And I think that the conversation should go beyond just having these conversations here and to engage more effectively our ambassadors and consular officers, and to be able to understand that young people need these opportunities to be able to interact and create a much more equitable and unified world. Otherwise, I think the only way we have survived have been to do a lot of virtual travels, as it were, from here, and traveling and partnering and all of that. But I think the conversation around ensuring that, otherwise, I have stopped, initiating new partnerships with US universities because I just keep getting students, and my students are unable to travel to the US. I think it's something that we got to look at it very critically. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much. It's fine. Thank you very much to all the presenters for the insight that they've given us. I have 2 points. We're talking about partnerships to benefit everybody. What I've learned from my little experience is that sometimes these partnerships, even though are meant to benefit Africans, we do not benefit the way we should. I've had the opportunity to participate in projects where you could see that the true benefit goes to, our colleagues in the north. When our gentleman was talking about 80% of the funds coming to Africa, you could see that when they are flying to Ghana, staying in big hotels, all these are considered a cost that is being paid to support, Africa. But in real sense, it doesn't benefit us. Sometimes you set a very big office in London, in whatever, managing the project, and all the funds go there, and it doesn't benefit us. So if we are talking about true benefits, I think that we have to target it very well, where it goes to benefit students, where it goes to make that there is some impact in the country. In that way, inequality, some sort of the equity issue will be addressed. The second part of my contribution comes to the Ghanaian students, and of course to the universities down here. We have this entitlement mentality that once the scholarship, everything should be paid. I've had opportunity to have an exchange program where a student is just supposed to go to Nigeria and take a visa, and she believes that it should also be funded. So what I mean is that we also have to put in the heads of our students that, part payment or contributing towards all these is also worth it. We want everything free, 100% free with no contribution. In that way, you don't get anything. After all, you need to, put in a little fish if you want to catch a fish. So we also have to educate our students to know that contributing towards this exchange and mobility program is very important. Thank you very much. Well, I'm Daniel Kabnachri, and the Director for Academic Quality Assurance Directory.
My name is Untim Jakari Festus. I'm from University of Environment and Sustainable Development, International Programs Office. My university is a new university with less than 1,000 students. Our quest to internationalize has come under many challenges, especially resources to support our agenda. However, the discussion is tilting towards the fact that we should set our own agenda. The funding is coming from the global north. We are not in a position to set our own agenda, especially when we don't have the resources to do so. In that context, what do we do? As a new university, what can we do with our internationalization agenda? Thank you.
All right, can we take just two last questions, comments, and then we have to move on. Yeah, this hand in front has been up for a while, so please.
Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Dia, and I'm the Dean for the International Programs Office of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology from Kumasi. Two quick issues. So it's very, very important. I see every day as Dean of the International Programs Office, the obvious and direct benefits or changes that we see in our students who go on student exchanges when they return. From their confidence level, 3 months prior to when they return. So for me, exchanges that are mutually beneficial and allow both sides to operate, it's very, very important. And these days, we have also designed joint programs, 2+2. So you do 2 years in KNUST, and then you go do 2 years in a partner university, and you can obtain dual degrees from both universities. We also have the 3+1+1, and that allows, especially with Europe, France, the UK, that's 3-year undergrad. So when you finish the 3 years in our place, you do 1 year there that accounts for 1 year, and then another year to do the master's degree. So we've had dealt with deliberately with the global north and also with China, Huhai, and quite a number of universities. Now, brain drain is always an issue, but sometimes you are best having your guy or lady out there and fighting your battles for you from there. One of our colleagues who actually completed and was teaching at KNUST has had to reluctantly, we had to release him to go out there to the US. And in the past 3 or 4 years, the volume of money and funding for our students and staff that has come back, we could not have done that if he had not gone. So I think it's a bit of the mentality and understanding of the bigger picture, which should be driving this. And always in these discussions, you need to always have what you want to get out of it. It doesn't matter if they are bringing the money, every university has something that they want to be noted or stand for. And I think that these should drive the discussions that we have going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, there's a lady there.
All right, thank you. I'm Suswana Eminsa, and my question will be based on in the light of not making it so transactional, and it has to go beyond that. I want to know how we are intentionally going to make this thing benefit the economy of Ghana, because we seem to be focused on the schools, the prestige, students going in and out of the country, but then the intentionality is missing. That's what I observe in this country we are in. We know that A equals B, B equals C, meaning that A would be equal to C. But then the B is what we don't focus on. How are we going to make A equal C if we don't focus on the B? So as we have a development economist on the panel, I'd like to know how we are going to use this platform to grow the economy of Ghana as a whole. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for your contributions and questions. I'm glad that I gave the opportunities. It's been very interesting. So we'll get a panel to react to the comments and questions. I'll start from Seth on the diaspora issue. You are a typical example of homegrown, uh, developed further in the UK, now working between the two continents. Um, uh, in the academic arena, we call it brain circulation. So what do you think about the role of Africans in the diaspora in fostering international partnerships and also ensuring that there's equity in these partnerships and African institutions are treated fairly?
Thank you very much. And I was very happy that the dean from KNUST gave a supporting backing on one side to the whole argument because I always raise my hand up before I speak and then I make an argument on that. And I'll give you a classical example. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I was in a different role managing the TIBA partnership. And we all saw how difficult it was for us to get the consumables, the equipment, and everything that we needed to support national government responses to the pandemic. And I've been on that side and working with our African partners, similar to what you said. Um, I did a lot to ensure that our partners had what they needed. Most people were not traveling to work, but because I was working with our partners across Africa, I was given the permission to travel to work to source, do it in some different space than our traditional view of brain drain. Because, like you said, there are things that I see and I know the local context of how it will benefit colleagues in Africa. I'm also privileged to be able to speak to colleagues on the continent to understand if I'm getting the context right, or if not, to learn more about it and shape it in the direction that to benefit the continent. So granted that the wish had been that everybody who goes out will come back. And normally that's what we all think. I had the same mentality, but sometimes things change. But when it changed and we see positivity in it, we should also value the contribution of the diaspora. And not just those of us in academia. For me, one of the things I'm engaging with the diaspora community in the UK, and most importantly also those in the US. Most of them, as you know, are tracing their roots back to different places on the continent. And it's important that as higher education, some of these people have the resources, the money, they want to do something to benefit the society. But higher education stands a very strong point of having the know-how in the research to use the funding that they will make available to develop the concept and the implementation of what they intend to do. And I think it's one way that we can foster that collaboration. If Prof, if you permit me, I'll talk just briefly on a gentleman's question on the younger institution. The approach that we've also taken is a hub and spoke approach, where traditionally we've been working with a university like the University of Ghana, but through University of Ghana, we are also reaching out to other universities in the continent. In March, on Independence Day, I was privileged to visit the Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Chenohesi. And one of the things that she said to us that in her role, she has received many first visits, but hardly does she receive second visits. And this is based on the visit of our principal and the team last year, and we going back to let her know some of the things that we've done. And it's also on her heart that everybody comes to Ghana, and like Professor Wandari said, this is the premium university. I probably the two of us might argue with that because we are alumni of the KUST. So everybody wants to work with University of Ghana, but her wish is that we can broaden the scope and see those also on the lower league and work also with them. So for our approach, we want to go for the hub and spoke, where as a university working with one university, we look out to who else can we bring on board within the relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. So Seth is being very modest here. Let me let you know that the African partner he's been talking about is me. Okay, so we were part of this TIBA project, and I can tell you that 2 weeks after COVID hit Ghana, we were able to sequence the genome of SARS-CoV-2 here. And that was because we got the primers from Seth, from a group called Arctic. There's a group of scientists in the UK called the Arctic Network, and they actively develop reagents for new pathogens. And this is their specialty. They develop reagents and bioinformatic pipelines for analyzing genomes. And so because this was a new agent, we had spent 2 weeks trying to sequence the virus. And one of the key or the critical reasons why we were not successful was the primers we were using. And Ceph, helped us access these critical primers. And within 2 weeks, we sequenced for the first time SARS-CoV-2 in Ghana. So thanks to Ceph. So just to echo what others have said, that when you have Africans placed at strategic places, they can even play a more significant role than if they were here. If Ceph was in KNUST teaching in a department, he would not have been able to help us sequence SARS-CoV-2. So sometimes the impact can even be more if they are well placed. So this is something that is important for us to note. Patrick, I'll let you take the question about poaching of students. How do you? I mean, our Northern partners would respond to that. I've told Hillary already that she stands accused. But from your end, you mentioned that you have programs that you send students in both directions.
Right.
Have your students been poached, and how do you prevent that from continuing?
No, I wouldn't say that our students have been poached. They all come back. The thing that has occurred, I think I mentioned we have a 4+1 program, which used to be a 3+2 program. And one of the reason we reviewed that program to make it 4+1, so 4 years here and 1 year there, was it was our top students who were getting that opportunity. And in the final year, if they were gone from the class, the energy and the drive in the class changed. And so it sort of affected everybody. And we felt that we wanted them here longer. And so we rearranged that program, and it's worked for us. And I give that example, every year, every single year, we review every partnership that we have to make a determination. Do we keep it as is? Do we make changes, or do we drop it? And that's on us. That is our responsibility to understand what is it we want from this, what is it we don't want. And if we're getting too much of what we don't want, do a cost benefit analysis and you decide you're going to drop it, right? For the years we've been doing this, I think there's just been one partnership that we dropped because we didn't think that there was a fit between the two institutions. But usually we're able to get what is necessary. I want to address there were multiple questions around what's a benefit to us, what's a benefit to Ghana. So I'll give the example of ETH Zurich. ETH Zurich has tremendous capabilities that we don't have. Okay. We are a 20-year-old institution. We're in the early stages of our journey. We have ambition. We have the ambition one day to become like ETH Zurich. But we must have the humility to learn from ETH Zurich to achieve that ambition. And when their faculty come here to co-teach classes with us, we know what we're getting from it. Every class is co-taught with a professor here. We're building a capacity. And that's a benefit to us. That's a benefit to Ghana. Okay. When our students go abroad and they come back, every single year, we have them debrief on where did their preparation at the Shesi meet how did they match with their colleagues there? Where were they advantaged by the Ashesi education? And where were they disadvantaged by the Ashesi education? And that feedback goes to the faculty at Ashesi, and we do make changes so that we know that we are, we're developing people who are globally competitive. That is a benefit to us, and that is a benefit to Ghana. If we have a program, we have programs with Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Microsoft, where they're hiring interns. They go do an internship in London or Vancouver or wherever. If they come back and they work for a Ghanaian company, having had that experience in London, that is a benefit to Ghana, right? And so the way we sort of calibrate what the benefit is you first have to decide what is it you're trying to accomplish. And if you're accomplishing those things, be happy, right? On the funding issue, we're in a situation where actually most of our funding comes from the global north. But I talked about student exchanges, right? What that means is that we take it on ourselves to raise the money to enable our students to travel. We're not depending on the other university to enable that. Sometimes we will do the fundraising together with a partner university to make that happen. but we take it as our responsibility to help get the funding to allow that exchange. And finally, I want to say that remote is not a problem. We see remote as a new benefit, right? So we actually have a situation where we have some courses that are taught remotely by faculty in North America. This is the benefit to us that technology has enabled, and we're happy about it. It doesn't always have to be, people getting in airplanes and flying around. If we can do it more efficiently, somebody teaching remotely with assistants in Ghana, tutoring students, that's great. We still gain something from it, and we're happy about it.
Thank you. Excellent. Yeah. So Spena, do you have experiences to share on partnerships that have not gone exactly as planned, and what did you do about it?
I think we all have those. We will be lying to each other for a specific country, and we do not need to expand in that region or in that field of expertise. We will try to focus more comprehensively on less partners for active collaboration than try to have as many as possible partners just on our list of partnerships. So that's important. And something else that we did, which is quite benefit to that working group, is that we've got international at faculty groups. So within every faculty within the institution, representatives of the international office will meet with the vice deans for research and internationalization at each department, but also with various other role players in that faculty. Office just doesn't know what's happening because faculty do collaborate amongst each other. And I think that's where sometimes some of those benefits can flow to the global north because faculty or researchers do that on their own without the support of an international office that could look at an agreement and make sure that we're not being just a tag along. So I think it's important that we collaborate, academics and international offices, when it comes to agreements and looking at that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Zanebi, so Venice suggestion is that they use the renewal process as a way of sort of managing partnerships and ensuring that they are achieving the goals. Now, if within the one partner, usually the stronger of the partners in terms of resource contribution, is not doing their side of the bargain and not putting in as much as you respect, or not giving the other partner the opportunity to set the agenda or to participate as much as possible. I'll give an example. I have had an experience where I had a grant with a partner in the UK, and in the grant, we wrote that some of the work will be done in Ghana, and there was a budget for that. And then once we got a grant, um, the partner decided that everything would be. Then the funding agency asked for an MOU, or the agreement between the UK institution and the African institution. And because of the need for that agreement, then they reached out to us with a draft agreement in which there was just a token amount of £1,000, to be transferred to Ghana. And of course, I rejected it, and I said that if you don't trust us to manage your funds, there's no need for us to have this partnership. But these are things that can happen in the middle of a collaboration, and you can't wait for the term of the agreement to end for you to address it during renewal. Have you had such experience, and what would you do?
I think what you mentioned as a problem for me is symbolic. From the start, I think the partnership, otherwise, I mean, if I look at some of the strategic partnerships, there is a will, there is trust, there is flexibility to walk the talk. But if they resist, I think from the start, it is not strategic. So I think that's why I'm now on a mission in the institute that I'm heading. I looked at MOUs for the past 40 years. So we did a small project just to look at MOUs, and the title of our project is Making MOUs Worth the Paper That They Were Printed On. So, so 2/3 of them were, nobody looked at them. Nothing concrete was done. So now we're looking at, it's not the more the merrier, but to focus on that you mentioned is one of the things that I mentioned, which is about resources. The second one is who sets the agenda for the research. The third one is roles and responsibilities. What kind of roles and responsibilities were given to you? In most of the partnership that I looked, partners from Asia, partners from Africa, partners from Latin America, they were given secondary roles. That is to do context analysis. Sorry. Data collection. Sorry. They can also do analysis. So those kind of partnerships we don't need from the start, So I think we need to focus on key constraints, not just symptoms. We know all these problems. So in this small project that I'm doing, yeah, most of them are similar to what you have experienced. If you give me 1-2 minutes, to address the mobility problem. Now I'm going to throw the hot potato back to you. Sorry for playing this devil's advocate. Dangote. 3 days ago, there was this article on the BBC. He was complaining that he had to apply at one point 35 visas to travel in Africa. So it's more difficult to travel within Africa than from here to Europe. Sorry to say that. It is true, Regionalization and all collaborations started in Africa before the European Union. But what are we doing? For example, University Alliance for Research in 2015, that was established in Dhaka. So are we leveraging those kind of regionalization vis-a-vis be a little bit critical of ourselves also before we are critical of Europeans and Americans? I'm trying to defend you, but I think this is the reality,
Yeah, thank you very much. I think our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration is here. Sometimes I see itineraries when I'm going to travel to an African country, where some of the itineraries they propose to you will be that you fly to Paris and then come back to Africa. So yeah, your point is really well taken. Seem to enjoy having the barriers between different countries. So anyway, so we're out of time, so we're going to give Hillary the last word to sum up the discussion and to defend herself against the accusation of poaching talented African students and sending them to Indiana and giving them posh jobs.
Your microphone. Okay. Thank you very much. I will get to the poaching question and the visa agenda. And yes, I couldn't agree more that all institutions need to be, but I actually don't think when it comes to partnerships that institutions should unilaterally set the agenda. That has to be done collectively. That's the whole point, is that we cannot solve these big issues and in isolation, right? We need to work together, and we're trying to figure out where that consensus is, where that cohesion is, so we can do it. And again, as I mentioned earlier, so much of that is about defining, like setting rules of engagement from the very beginning, making it very, very clear what issues you're dealing with, where the resources are flowing, what is the language of communication and so on. So yeah, and power, right? Power needs to be at the heart of that conversation. So okay, poaching gateway in Africa and officially now in Ghana, where we've determined its location. We've heard very clearly, and we're adhering to that. This is, if this is something that is fulfilling a need, then of course we will work with our on here in Ghana. I as far as brain drain and the well, let me actually switch to the visa issue. So the visa issue is it is to you, to be quite honest with you, when we do have students who want to come and they are unable to get visas. I can tell you that we are doing a lot of advocacy. We challenges to her. We haven't had a chance to do that here with Ambassador Palmer. My ask about visas because it is an issue. It's actually an issue for us too. A lot of our academics are now starting to have issues of getting visas actually in reverse and so on. I think part of it is so I could just say I agree and I know, and there is a lot of advocacy in the United States with institutions, with organizations of international education trying to advocate for the vetting and so on. The one thing I can tell you that I think does hurt us in the United States when it comes to that sort of advocacy is we do not have a national policy like South Africa has. We don't have a national policy that is really lifting and prioritizing international education. And there's a lot of people that are proposing that, are working towards that, and are hopefully going to be developing such a thing. And I think that will be a big step moving forward. So thank you very much.
Diana, Patrick, and Seth, thank you so much for excellent contributions this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the panel has lived up to expectation. Wouldn't you agree? So on behalf of the University of Ghana and the IPO iWeek Planning Committee, I wish to thank all of you for taking the time to join us and to make such thoughtful contributions. And we look forward to continuing the discussion. Thank you.
Hello. Would like to thank our panelist and moderator. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you so much. I'm sure you agree with me that it's been a very insightful and informative session, and we've picked a few things that we are leaving here with. At the heart of UG's internationalization strategy is creating memorable campus experiences. And so we could not have held the symposium, relax at this point, and enjoy the performance that they've put together for us. Are you ready? Please, let's encourage them.
We go.
Pourquoi la paix?
Wow. Wat is er aan het gebeuren hier? We hebben honger, jongen.
Rien n'est que la paix. We are
Everywhere. The war. At the moment, there's much talk about the Russia-Ukraine war, about the Israel-Palestine war. But there's a war going on in Sudan, in Africa. And they too need your humanitarian assistance as well.
What a better time than now to be reminded that today, more than ever, we need to come together as one.
Quel meilleur moment que maintenant pour se rappeler qu'aujourd'hui, et plus que jamais, nous devons nous unir.
Leo tunaposherehekea utofauti wa kimataifa, tamaduni na mabadilishano katika chuo kikuu cha Ghana, na kwa hilo tunaimba.
Indeed, today, as we celebrate international diversity in Exchanges University of Ghana, let us remember what life would mean if we are all together as one.
We want peace. 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 We want peace.
You have 2 lines.
There comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one.
There are people dying. Oh, it's time to turn a hand tonight.
The greatest gift of all. Somewhere we'll soon make a change. We are all a part of.
We are the world.
We are the children. The choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, we make a better day, just you and me.
Than you and me. That we are all there. We ask that you send them your heart. Those in Gaza, Israel, Ukraine, Russia, in Sudan, and all those affected by the global warming effect, like drought, hunger, diseases, so that they know that someone cares and their lives will be stronger and free once again.
We ask this of you because
We are the Word.
We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true, we'll make a better day. Just you and me. Well, send them your heart so they know that someone cares and their lives will be. Sleepless beats. Tearful.
everything is so rough, everything's getting. There is no open doors, we are resting no more. If you don't hear this song and you feel you would fall, turn the radio on. All you hear is just war. Everything is so rough, everything's getting tough. There is no open doors, we are resting no more. If you don't hear this song and you feel you would fall, turn the radio. All you hear is just war. Okay, you promised me that everything will be indeed just fine, but now it bothers me. In fact, it's just destroying. On top of that, you should be the one who has to rescue me. I need no help, and honestly, listen to recover. I feel like I have a remedy. You should better go back and hide at least. Like the clock machine, probably. Like up to an app installed in. Tell you what your needs to be. Or we are feeling ecstasy. That's why we are making you better. And you have no, but it's just by the way you lose bonds. The fact that you all keep fighting all and all in the name of serving God, pretending like there's nothing wrong. Anyways, we got the strong, care for each other, I want, working to get the war, and we don't war. You gotta know you're a part of me, I don't know what it's got inside of me. Community, gotta stop that war. Listen, we gotta stop that war. It's not worth to see the war, we gotta stop. Not worth to see the we gotta stop that war. It's not worth to see the war, we gotta stop that war. It's not worth to see the war, we gotta. It's not worth to see the war, we gotta. We gotta what? Stop that war. Listen, I can't hear you. Say what? Say what? One more time. Stop that war. We gotta stop that war.
Can we have a louder round of applause for our students? I realize that out of them, you have so many talents and skills. We really appreciate you putting this together. Um, I mean, you are studying, and at the same time, you've been able to do this, and we really, really appreciate this. Thank you so much. We'll take our last address before we end. We are gradually drawing closer to the end of this afternoon's event. We have our special guest with us here, who is the German ambassador, His Excellency Daniel Krul. He's a friend, a very good friend of the university. We see him very often at a lot of our programs. Please, you are invited to come up and deliver the address. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is going to be a challenge. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I honestly don't know how I earned this privilege to address this very distinguished audience here today. Acting Vice Chancellor, Professor Gordon Avandari, Dean of the International Department, Professor Eric Osei Asebi, representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, representative of partner universities here present in the room and joining us online, eminent panelists, distinguished guests, friends from the media. I stand on established protocols. I had to write an examen on the equity question. I would have failed. I would have failed dramatically because given my background in political science and economics, I thought equity, private equity, growth equity, this is what it's about. And so I started thinking about what it can be my contribution to the question of equity for research, for international cooperation. So from listening to the broad spectrum of panelists, I understand that in this context, equity is looked at differently. But however, I want to start with my original idea of looking into equity for science and research. And I want to bring the sad message that I'm afraid that the fiscal space for international collaboration and research and development, at least in Europe, is not growing but shrinking. And there's one simple reason, and that's Russia. Russia, Germans, our European partners, to dramatically increase our investment into defense, into military equipment. We don't want that, but we have to do that when we want to defend our democracy, our democratic value, and our freedom in Europe. And it's of course also the freedom of speech, it's the freedom of research. So for this problem. So Germany in particular, we have to increase our spending for defense, and we have a very, very severe constraints in our budget. And so the ministry. So this is the context, I'm afraid. Now, the other equity question I ask myself is, what about is equity for research and development and innovation in Ghana? And there I have to note that the government put out a 1%, and I encourage all voters in Ghana to make sure that people are held accountable for this. You need the money for international cooperation, and I'm wondering, I mean, there are countries, you look at Norway, you look in the Emirates, where the funds for oil and gas have been channeled at least partially into the educational system and into the research system. I'm not aware that this has been done in Ghana. We are looking at Ghana as a country where the illegal gold exports are estimated to be 10 billion. So that gives you an idea that there is a number of resources that could be used for improving the question. And I think they are both related. If a dean of a faculty, if a researcher, it becomes an obligation for the lecturers to raise funds, not only for themselves, but for their team, because they cannot raise the funds here. So if you are rightly promoting equity and partnership, then also Ghana has to work, as we have to do at home, to get the funds right for this kind of cooperation. We have reiteration, ownership translated into investment from the Ghanaian side. So we had the idea to expand the number of scholarships for student exchange by inviting the Ghanaian government to partner how do you say that, to double or to at least add to each scholarship we are offering to add some portion. So we make sure that we really have it. We're not met. And we noticed that in very many corporations, that the contribution that were agreed, not to the lack of willingness, but to the underfunding of research science in Ghana. And I strongly believe that there is fiscal room for improving this. Now, there were some very interesting points. I want to pick the one on the brain drain, and I have to contradict Chris Gordon. It's really missing the point. And I think it also reflects respected from him that he would promote merit-based, to promote the best and to support them and enable them to make the best possible academic career. Now, Chris, have you asked this guy in the US who was offered this pathway to PhD? You know, it's for my that they want to make their living in Iceland. They will do it, and they have the right to do it. And we don't have the right to blame them for that. So I'm career. And the colleague from KNUST pointed out, I can tell you many examples of people who pursued their career in the US, in Europe, and later came back and we should not forget this individual choice. It's an individual choice of the researcher. And it's not on us, not on the governments, not on the universities, not on the business community. Now, and then on the question of years, when I was posted in Vietnam, that was in 99 to 2002. University delegation plus a minister of science spent 1 week in Vietnam at the time. 1 week here in Vietnam, 2002. And he said, well, we need young researchers for our research institutes. This is why we're here. So I think it's a question of talents who like to work and research in Germany. So again, I think it's there are so many young talents here in Ghana. There's an overflow of graduates from universities. If I only look at Accra Tech University, who almost doubled the number of students from 30 to 70,000. So there's a huge number of students, and if 100 or 1,000 are going to Germany, this will not harm Ghana's development and growth. So you're all invited to. You're all invited to look into opportunities in Germany. I just want to add one thing to that, is that that they have to spend 15 to 20,000 euros tuition fee, while at public universities you study for free. And it's not that the privates are better. It's only that people here in Ghana do not know better. And I encourage you to look and research question. I hope we have a slightly better record. I just got the latest number that we have an approval rate of 85%, which I think is pretty good. It is same with all other categories. And my people just told me, tell the students, don't go to an agent. Look into the web. Look into the website of the German embassy. You find the information you need. You have to follow the guidance you get there. You don't need to pay an agent. And you are all well educated. You're all capable. It's relevant. Okay? So these are my very small remarks on this. And then now I don't want to keep you longer from moving out and reaching out to the to the scholarship fair outside. Thank you very much for inviting me here, and I wish the seminar a very good outcome. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Ambassador Crew. I hope the students here were taking note of the tips he gave. You have received them from the ambassador himself. So please take it very seriously. So we are gradually drawing to the end of this now it's afternoon event. And I would like to invite the Pro Vice Chancellor, who has taken back his role as chair of this event, to give us his closing remarks.
Thank you. I think I enjoy the panelist role more than the chair role. I don't like the formalities. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very, very exciting and insightful morning, now turned into afternoon. First of all, let me thank you for still being here. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not going to try to some issues, but I'll put a take-home message this way: that ensuring that we have equitable partnerships is a responsibility of all the partners. Okay, and that begins from the inception of the partnership. Each partner needs to bring value to the table. If you want an equitable partnership, you have to come with some value. Okay, and I think many people have echoed that. As an institution, as an individual academic, bring it that when we go, because your leverage in the partnership depends on what value you bring to the partner. Now, it also requires integrity on all sides. Agreement do not mean anything. Do not follow the. It's very important for sustainable partnerships. And lastly, it's just the goodwill and friendship that comes with partnerships. The best partnerships are those that the partners have a personal connection with each other. They are friends. They can have beers together. They can have kose together. Kose is a nice local dish here. Or burgers, right? So these are the ingredients for a very successful partnership. And we need to be mindful of all these when we go into partnerships. Now, the issue of, our country doing our part, we're coming back to Ghana. That is a fact that we have to all acknowledge. The ambassador mentioned African governments committed to spending 1% of GDP on research. That was now almost 20 years ago. I think it was 2015 or so. It's now 20 years ago. African countries have met this target. It globally, then we partnerships. Mr. Ambassador, the issue about brain drain, we agree with you that each individual is free to go wherever they want. When you take a result, we have students who go to medical school in Ghana, highly subsidized, or do nursing in Ghana, super subsidized, and then after that, they pack and they leave. That's what we're talking about. If you go to Germany and pay for your own education, you stay there, nobody has a problem with that. But let's not take advantage of the national purse and then go and do whatever we want to do. It is our responsibility to protect the public good. So, Mr. Ambassador, so we're happy to share our talent with you. as long as you pay for it. Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to keep you any longer. Thank you so much for your patience and your contributions. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Pro VC, Professor Wandari, Pro Vice Chancellor, Academic and Student Affairs, who represented the Vice Chancellor and chaired this event very beautifully. Almost at the end of it for our participants and our special guests, would like to take some acknowledgements now. Earlier on, the Dean of International Programs acknowledged the Ghanaian universities that are here this afternoon. Because of time, I cannot repeat this list, but I would like you to know that we appreciate your presence here. I think in the course of the program, we're joined by Accra Technical University. So I think we didn't acknowledge. Can we see you so we can acknowledge the team from? Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. So to all of us who are here, please know that we appreciate your presence. Schedules are very tight these days, but you made time to be here because you understand that this is a very important program, and we're happy to welcome you. The symposium and the various iWeek events were made possible by many individuals and organizations. And at this point, I would like to acknowledge our sponsors. For those who have the brochure on the back page, back cover, we would like to acknowledge our sponsors. We'd like to acknowledge Ghana National Gas Company Limited, Ghana Gas. We'd like to acknowledge Polymoth Labs, the Ghana European Center, GIZ, the European Union, the National Petroleum Authority, National Lottery Authority, Petroleum Commission, Ghana Tourism Authority, and Nespresso. Please, let's acknowledge all of these companies that came together to ensure that today's program was a success. We appreciate your support. And please take note that the Nespresso sponsorship, which is flowing coffee, is still available. For the students, if you go to the Study Abroad Fair, you would have a drink, one cup, please, 1 cup for everybody to taste the product. But still, for our participants and special guests, the Seminar Room 1 still has the coffee available for you. We'd also like to thank our students volunteers, the handsome gentlemen, the beautiful ladies in the white t-shirts who were ushering us to our seats, as well as the international students who performed. We want to appreciate your support for this event. Thank you so much for doing all the things that you did today. Now to announcements. Immediately after the university anthem, students, you are supposed to remain in here. We are going to hold information sessions. I'm sure through the discussions, you realize how important information is to your various applications. I'm sure a lot of you are looking forward to continue your education outside the way. And so we've organized an information session for you here. So you would wait behind here. You'll be listening to Erasmus Plus, DAAD, Campus France. I think those are the institutions that have been lined up for you. They'll give you information on your various applications and opportunities that are available to you. So this is very important. While you are seated, you would be given a lunch coupon. So please take note of that, and which will help you to take a pack of lunch with you when you leave, because it's lunchtime or almost lunchtime. So please take note of that. But you'd only receive your lunch after the information session. So please take note. Would like to invite all our international participants, our special invited guests seated here, to join us at the foyer where we will cut the tape to open the Study Abroad Fair. And again, for the students, when you leave the information session, please note that there's a fair going on at the foyer where you can visit the various stands to get more information on the schools that have exhibited. But our special guests and then our participants will leave us, will be ushered through this door round to where we'll cut the tape to officially open the fair. So please kindly follow the lead of those of us in the university cloth. So we'll lead you to that part where we'll cut the tape. Would also want to remind you of the other activities that have been lined up for the International Week. After this, there's a food bazaar that has opened at the International Students Hostel car park. Please lined up a number of vendors who do really good local dishes. So please go there and have something to taste. Tomorrow also, which is Friday, we'll have Rep a Country. And this is for you to dress up in the attire of another country, take photos, share on social media. Please tag the IPO and the University of Ghana social media platforms. It's Rep a Country tomorrow. Tomorrow, the food bazaar will continue. But in the evening, there's going to be a musical concert also at the International Students Hostel car park, to which all of us are invited. It's a Friday night. Please make it as part of your schedule for your Friday night activities. We hope to see you there tomorrow. So that is what we have for you today. Thank you so much for being part of this international symposium. And please remember the announcements as we come to an end. Students, please remain for the information session. A lot has gone into planning this to ensure that you make the right decisions in terms of applications and schools and all of that, and exchange programs and all that is available for you. Thank you very much. More networking after this. There'll be photographs as well in the foyer when we open the fair. So please don't be in a hurry to go away. And so now I'll kindly ask us all to rise for the University of Ghana anthem. The words are on page, I'm trying to find it, page 14 of the brochure. Please note, international participants, after the opening of the invited guests, after the opening of the Study Abroad Fair, and deans, directors who are here present, former deans, there's going to be lunch downstairs in Seminar Room 3. So please don't be in a hurry to go. International participants are special guests, our sister universities who are visiting. Please join us at Seminar Room 3 for lunch. University anthem, please.
University of Ghana, the nation's hope and glory, the place that bears the star of peace and peace and sought to do wonders in the best hour of learning. His mind was young and old, and we will sing in unity to uphold the public cause. Arise and envoy, defend the cause of freedom, proceed into an eternity to make a nation proud. Proceed into the eternity to make a nation proud. We ask for strength and wisdom as we climb the hill of learning. May we as our tell we do as we prepare to face the world with your mind ready at all times and your conscience sweet to feel. May we proceed in unity to oppose the public cause. Arise and live, proceed into the eternity to make our nation proud.
Hello, students. Yes, so thank you very much for